depending on when you're watching this, I had spoke about some of the things that we're about to speak about here on News and Why It Matters over at Blaze TV. Of course, you can go check that out. Me, Jocko, Sarah Gonzalez. We talked about a lot of this. And interesting thing happened today. And basically, the governor of California, if you live in California, y'all could get the hell out. But, to be fair, I guess there's a lot of other places that are doing similar things in this regards. But oh man, I'm gonna try to be less snarky in this video. But so let's just go to it here. So Governor Gavin Newsom, has now mandated a lockdown again, further lockdowns more so. They never really got out of a full lockdown. They just are increasing lockdowns. They're closing indoor operations statewide, so the entire state. Restaurants closed, indoor operations, wineries, movie theaters, family entertainment, zoos, all bars must close immediately. And then you have they are closing indoor operations now as well for places of worship. So you can't go to church for these counties over here. You can't go to church, can't go to work out, can't go to get your hair done, nails did, all of that. Offices for non-critical sectors, right? So there's another further lockdown for Gavin Newsom's California. And the thing that I found interesting is that he still has it pinned, which is hilarious. I believe it was June 18th, the day before they had mandated masks in California. It may have went in effect to the 19th. I don't know. But I believe it was before actually this date. So almost a month ago, they had mandated masks. This is what recently we did in Texas. And as you see that he's mentioning, there's been a quote unquote surge spread at an alarming rate, right? Because of said surge, they're closing down. So the mask mandates didn't work like what a lot of people have been lecturing us on. Now, I'm not doing this video to be anti-mask or anything like that. I just actually believe, because I'm not so, my politics aren't necessarily tied into it. I just don't believe in terms of the effectiveness, it's a consensus on science, because it's not. You can find studies to the contrary. Definitely prior to this last couple of months, there are plenty of scientists that do not work for the government, doctors that do not work for the government, that advise against it for healthy people to wear masks. And the mask mandate obviously includes healthy people. Now, I would be against a mask mandate regardless. That's just me being consistent in my principles. However, the whole idea as far as what they say, as far as the mask mandates to slow the spread to some arbitrary amount. Nobody ever mentions the arbitrary or what the amount is. Like, they just say slow the spread. The post keeps moving, guys. And now we don't want anybody to get it, when it used to be just for flattening the curve to make sure hospitals were in use and people could be good to go in that regards. Or more so, you wanted to keep the people that would need the hospital resources under the amount of hospital resources that are available. That was the whole idea for flattening the curve. Now they moved that post. Now we're just worried about cases, which is why all we talk about is positive cases. Despite deaths going down in most places, positive cases is all they talk about. But the mask mandates for California, and they want to talk about Texas, they want to talk about Florida. For whatever reason, California was having a similar surge, and they didn't talk about them despite having the mask mandates. And I think the mask thing has created this false perception of security. Of course, you have this weird kind of element where the protests, all of that has nothing to do with the spread for whatever reason. In fact, I believe in some cases in the Upper East Coast, you can still protest. You just can't do other stuff outside, which is stupid. Nonetheless, all of these things that happen when it comes to, I guess, these rising in cases, you have these mask mandates, and it did not stop the surge nonetheless. And the protest had nothing to do with it, they claimed. Who to trust, who knows? Even on the mass things, you've seen the government officials and the government scientists and the doctors, including Fauci, go back on what they initially believed to be true. This idea that scientists are just all on one accord, and also that they have no political bias, is stupid. They are human beings just like anybody else. Definitely Twitter has exposed a lot of these cats. A lot of these guys are just, they have politics and feelings too. And if you don't think that they won't say things that lean towards those politics, even if it's anti their field, they will absolutely do it. It happens in every single other industry. Had my tongue red? Dang. Strawberry lemonade Slurpee, baby. Nonetheless, yeah, it's so good too. Anyway, what was I going? Where was I going with that? I don't even know where I was going. The important thing to note is that what folks point to, this anecdotal evidence. A lot of stuff that I've seen people talk about, and I always thought it was a bad argument. They point to Japan, they point to these other places, and they say that, well, they don't have as many cases or as many deaths, and they happen to wear a mask. Therefore, it's the mask. Again, it's anti-science because, and math for that matter, because you can sit here and look at other things, and the other things that exist can attribute to why they don't have as many deaths, as many hospitalizations, or cases altogether. There could be a multitude of different things that go to that. The fact that, well, you look at, oh, they had masks, therefore that's what it is. Remember, and then a lot of guys point to Asia, and they say that they have, remember, that's where the breakout came from anyway. That's where this this whole ordeal originated, and it got way over here. Now, I'm not here to tell you if it works or doesn't work. I'm just saying that to act like there's a scientific consensus is bogus. You can find scientists on both sides, not only of the mask thing, the effectiveness of it, but on the other side of the whole spreading and slowing of the spread. There are epidemiologists that disagree with that in the approach. They think that this disease should run its course. The vulnerable should be protected. We've been covering this for 4 months on this channel. Epidemiologists that have long said that. So to act like there's just, because they're not with the government, maybe, to act as if that's just, oh, it's just a consensus, is complete bogusness. It's just not true. But if you're going to point to the anecdotes, you have to point to this anecdote, right? Where masks are being mandated did not stop this surge. Now, I think we're along. Look, we've done nothing like this in recent human history where we're doing these mass forms of testing. I would love to know if you got tested for the other amount of viruses that are out there, including the common cold that could get people sick or give them pneumonia or something like that. How many people would test positive for those viruses? I think that would be an interesting thing, because now we're doing these mass form of testings, and all we look at is tickers, right? The amount of cases, the amount of deaths that are going up that are being attributed to this. We know in a lot of places they're cooking the books, including numbers with people that are probable to have it, including numbers of people that never tested positive for it. We talked about this on this channel. But what I'm saying is, it didn't get the effect that you'd like to act as if we would have got if we did this earlier. And it's funny, I'm seeing all these guys talk about the whole mask thing. This is a funny thing, because this guy actually documented a thread, right? You have these guys that go out there and say, well, if we'd done this 4 months ago, we would have been fine. And then he went through all the doctors, all the CNNs, all the articles, all the things that were being published, acknowledging the fact that you should not wear a mask. In fact, they were telling you the complete opposite. And then they went back on that. There's a full thread of this, and Drew does a great job of documenting this. There's a full thread of these even highlighting what the experts have been saying when it comes to the healthy people wearing masks. And then they went right back on it. And now they want to act as if this is something they had been advocating forever. This is why a lot of us say that just because you claim to be for science does not mean that you are anti-religion. A lot of y'all have religious claim to what science and what they say, which is odd, because scientists, it's almost, science in general is usually an ongoing argument, an ongoing conversation, and about any given topic. That's science. Yet they act as if what someone says, generally if it comes from the government, if they're government scientists, then it's gospel. And anything outside of this is hack, no matter if they have the same credentials or anything of that nature. But if you want to talk about anecdotes, we got to talk about some happened. Now, was this a disease that could ever be stopped? Or is the increase in testing attributing to a lot of, we do have that positive rate that exists, but is the increase in testing in general just really highlighting how many people have it? And does that attribute, because I believe now we've tested more, if I'm not mistaken. Let me see if I can get those numbers real quick. I know we've done more tests, than any aside from China, which trust those numbers if you must. Aside from China, we've done more tests than anybody. We've done more tests than anybody. We've done more tests than anybody in the entire world, aside from China. Russia's behind us, UK. So we're at almost 43 million as of today. Tests, just not confirmed cases, just tests in general. So we're gonna up to 43 million. That's just recorded right now. It's probably well over that. And Russia is not even, just half that, about 23 million. So yeah. And then UK is half of that with 12 million. So those are things that have to be taken into consideration. But all too often we look at the result and try to pin something that happened that attributes to it without thinking the fact that we are human beings. We have different interactions. We have different cultures. There's a lot of things that can contribute to cases, deaths, and hospitalizations that have nothing to do with masks. But it's not concrete one way or the other, because there's the ongoing debate among scientists is happening right now. But what I can say is, if you're going to point to the anecdote to the Japans of the world and say, well, they have mandated masks and they have no lockdowns because they going about business, it's the mask that's working. And then you have California with mandated masks, and this is the result. Now, a lot of folks are going to cop out and say, well, it's because people aren't actually wearing them, right? That's the cop out they always use. I went to so-and-so and I didn't see anybody wearing it. Therefore, it's just not enough people wearing a mask. And that's why it's not spreading. It's just a mask gives you immunity. But I'm just here to pass the news. Give you my thoughts on it. I think it's interesting. California is back in lockdown. Well, now I won't say back in lockdown, furthering their lockdown. Lockdown even more. Despite having mask mandates, they had a big time surge. So yeah, take that for whatever way you may.